My brother always said love wasn't a competition until he made it one. He didn't just take my girlfriend. He took my trust, my peace, and the last piece of brotherhood I thought we still shared. That night when I saw them together, smiling like nothing had been broken, something inside me went quiet. Not angry, just cold. Months passed, and life did what it always does. It circled back with irony sharper than a knife. Because the woman who would later stand by my side, the one who'd help me bury that pain, was his ex. And I didn't plan to fall for her. It just happened. The kind of quiet love that grows from shared scar. When he invited me to his wedding, I almost didn't go. But part of me wanted to see if he'd finally won. He hadn't. Because I walked in holding her hand, and for the first time in years, he looked small. Would you forgive your brother if he betrayed you like that? Would you still go to his wedding? Or would you do what I did and show him what karma looks like? After that wedding, silence hung between us like a challenge. Liam didn't call. Neither did I, but word travels fast in families. And soon enough, my mother was asking if I had to make a scene. Maybe I did. Maybe he deserved to feel what betrayal looks like when it stares back at you in a mirror. I didn't do it to humiliate him. I did it to close a wound that never healed right. Still, when I looked at Claire that night, laughing like she'd finally let go of her own ghosts, I realized revenge hadn't been my victory. Peace had. Claire told me once that pain has a way of finding its mirror. Maybe that's why we found each other. Both betrayed, both trying to rebuild from ashes. But sometimes healing doesn't come gently. Sometimes it comes with sharp reminders that the past still lingers, waiting for a reaction. And when Liam finally called, his voice didn't sound like guilt. It sounded like pride. He said, "You won, didn't you?" Like it was all just another race. I didn't respond, because deep down, I knew neither of us had won anything. We'd both lost something more important. The version of each other that still believed family meant forever. In the end, it wasn't about revenge. It was about closure. I learned that sometimes justice isn't about seeing someone suffer. It's about finally feeling free enough not to care. Maybe Liam will never understand that. Maybe he'll always see my silence as victory. But as I look at Claire now, laughing in our kitchen, I realize I didn't lose anything that was truly mine. 2 weeks after the wedding, Liam finally called. His voice was calm. Too calm. Like someone holding a knife behind their back. He said he wanted to make things right. I wanted to believe him, but with Liam, every apology hides a purpose. When I agreed to meet him, I thought it would end with words. Instead, it began with a secret. One I never saw coming. He smiled across the cafe table, leaned forward, and said, "You really don't know who Claire used to be, do you?" That's when my stomach turned, because his tone wasn't jealous. It was satisfied. Liam didn't flinch when he said it. He told me that before Claire met me, before she ever dated him, she was involved in something messy. Something he helped her cover up. He said it so casually, like it was nothing. But my heart dropped. He claimed she lied to both of us, used us to escape her past. I didn't believe him. Not at first, but that night, when I looked into Claire's eyes and saw her hesitate, before answering a simple question, doubt began to whisper. The next day, I found the envelope. It was slid under our door. No name, no note, just a photograph inside. Claire, years younger, standing beside a man I didn't recognize. Tears streaking her face. It wasn't what she'd done that scared me. It was that she never told me. My brother knew this, and he'd used it like a weapon, aiming straight at the trust we built. Claire told me the truth that night. The man in the photo was her ex-fiancé. The one who hurt her. The one she'd tried to run from. Liam had helped her disappear from that chapter, not out of love, but out of control. He'd held her secret as leverage, knowing one day it would buy him something. I thought revenge was mine. Turns out it had always been his. That night I called Liam. I didn't yell. I didn't curse. I just told him he'd finally won. Because now, even when I looked at Claire, I saw him. His shadow between us. But after I hung up, she came to me, trembling, and said something that shattered everything I thought I knew. Ethan, he didn't help me disappear. He made me. That's when I realized Liam's revenge wasn't over. It was only beginning. I didn't sleep that night. Claire's words echoed in my head. He made me disappear. What did that mean? I thought I knew my brother, but the more I replayed everything, the more it didn't add up. Liam always wanted control. Over our parents, over me, over every story he told about himself. Maybe Claire was another story he twisted. The next morning, I decided to dig. Because if Liam could manipulate her past, what else had he been hiding? I found the man from the photo, alive, living under a new name. And the story he told me twisted my stomach. Liam had convinced Claire years ago that her ex was dangerous, that disappearing was her only choice. He told her he'd protect her, but he used her fear to keep her close. She ran, but he followed, until she met me. Every moment we'd shared, every piece of healing, had been built on a secret Liam never wanted her to escape. When I confronted Liam, he didn't deny it. He just smiled, the same smug, calm smile he'd always used to hide guilt. I protected her, he said. You just reaped what I built. That's when I realized it wasn't about Claire anymore. It was about control. He didn't want her back. He wanted to prove that no matter what, he could still decide the ending. But not this time. The argument turned into shouting, years of resentment spilling out all at once. Everything we'd buried. Our father's favoritism, my silence, his jealousy, exploded in 6 minutes of pure chaos. Then he said something I'll never forget. You only ever got what I let you have. That was the moment I saw him clearly. Not as my brother, but as the man who thrived on breaking things just to see if he could fix them again. When I walked away, I didn't look back. Claire was waiting in the car, her eyes red from crying but filled with quiet strength. I told her it was over, not just with Liam, but with the part of me that kept holding on to his shadow. We drove until the city lights faded behind us. Maybe family isn't always about who you're born to. Sometimes it's about who chooses to stay when the truth burns everything else down. We didn't talk about Liam for weeks. Then one morning my mother called. Her voice shook in that way that always means she's hiding something. She asked me to come home, just for a day. When I arrived, the house smelled like old dust and memories I'd tried to forget. There was a box on the kitchen table, sealed and worn, with my father's handwriting on top. He'd passed years ago, but inside were letters, one for me, one for Liam, written before he died. That was the beginning of the truth neither of us saw coming. The letter wasn't long. My father wrote about mistakes, about raising 2 boys in a house built on silence. He admitted he'd pushed Liam too hard, expecting him to be the strong one, the protector, while I was allowed to be the dreamer. If he ever turns cruel, the letter said, it's because I taught him that love is earned through control. I sat there for an hour, staring at those words, realizing that everything Liam became started with the man we both tried to impress. That night, I found Liam sitting on the old front porch, the same spot we used to race our toy cars across as kids. He had his own letter in hand, untouched. When I asked if he'd read it, he shook his head. What's the point? He's gone. I told him the point was me. Us. What was left of the family we kept breaking. For a second, I saw the boy he used to be flicker through the bitterness. But just for a second, he finally opened it. The first line broke him. "Liam, I am sorry I made you believe love had to be deserved." He didn't cry. He just sat there, motionless, breathing hard, like every word was both a wound and a release. For the first time, I didn't see my rival. I saw my brother, crushed under expectations that weren't his to carry. Maybe revenge had never been about hatred. Maybe it had been about wanting someone to finally see his pain. When I left that night, I didn't feel anger anymore. Just understanding. Liam would have to face what he'd done. But for the first time, I didn't want to see him punished. I wanted to see him heal. As I drove back home to Claire, the road ahead felt open. Not perfect, not easy, but honest. Maybe that's what forgiveness really is. Not forgetting what happened, but choosing to stop letting it define you. It's strange how quiet life becomes after chaos. Days passed without calls from Liam. No messages, no surprises waiting on the doorstep. For the first time in years, the silence wasn't heavy. It was peaceful. Claire started smiling again, not out of relief, but because she finally believed the worst was behind us. I wanted to believe that too. But when you've spent years living in someone's shadow, part of you never stops looking over your shoulder. Then, out of nowhere, Liam sent a text. "Dinner? Just us." I stared at it for a long time, half expecting the same manipulation in a different disguise. But something in me needed to know, not for closure, but for confirmation. Could he really change? Claire told me to go. "Sometimes," she said, "the hardest peace is the one you make face to face." So I went. Liam arrived 10 minutes late, but for once he didn't wear the grin. He looked tired, humbled, almost human. We talked about everything except the past at first. The weather, work, even old movies we used to watch as kids. And then, out of nowhere, he said, "I'm sorry, not for what he did, for who he became." And maybe that was enough. When I left, I didn't promise we'd be brothers again. I didn't have to. Some bonds aren't fixed by words. They're just acknowledged and left to rest. On the drive home, I felt something shift inside me. Not joy, not relief, just peace. The kind that comes when you stop needing closure and start living beyond it. When I got home, Claire was waiting on the balcony, wrapped in a blanket. I told her everything. The apology, the silence, the calm. She smiled and said, "Then it's finally over." I held her close, listening to the city hum below us. Maybe it wasn't about revenge or winning or even forgiveness. Maybe it was just about letting go. It had been months since that dinner. Life finally felt normal, simple even. Claire's laughter filled the apartment again. I almost forgot what it was like to live without tension, waiting around every corner. But peace doesn't last when the past is built on lies. One evening, a call from a detective shattered the quiet. They were investigating Liam. Fraud, blackmail, something tied to the people had once manipulated for money. I didn't want to believe it, but deep down I knew it was true. Liam never escaped his shadow. When I met him again, he looked smaller. Not physically, but in spirit. He told me he didn't run the schemes. He'd taken the blame for someone else, an old associate who threatened to ruin what was left of his life. "I just wanted to start over," he said. His voice cracked on the word over. I saw something I hadn't seen in years, the truth, not manipulation. Not ego, just regret. I didn't know what to do. Help him or let him face it. But then, he did something I never expected. He walked into the station the next morning and confessed. Everything. Even the things he could have hidden. It wasn't weakness, it was courage. For the first time, Liam didn't try to win. He just told the truth. They sentenced him to community service and restitution. No jail, just time to rebuild what he broke. I visited once months later, at the community center where he worked with kids. He looked lighter. He laughed. actually laughed with a group of children painting a mural. I stood there for a moment, unseen, and realized something. Forgiveness isn't always a moment. Sometimes it's watching someone finally become who they were supposed to be. They were supposed to be. That night, I told Claire everything. She didn't say much, just held my hand and whispered, "Then maybe it's finally time to let the past rest." And she was right. For the first time, I didn't feel like a rival, or a victim, or even a survivor. I just felt human. And maybe that's what family is supposed to teach us. Not perfection, not victory, but grace. A year passed before I saw Liam again. Time had softened the sharp edges between us. Life had moved forward quietly. Claire's laughter filled our mornings, and the weight that once sat between my shoulders finally felt lighter. When Liam showed up at my door unannounced, holding nothing but an old photo of us as kids, I didn't feel anger, just a strange kind of peace. He said, "I thought you should have this." Maybe that was his way of saying everything he couldn't find words for. We talked for hours that day, not about what happened, but about everything else. Music, work, the stupid things our dad used to say. It wasn't forgiveness, not really. It was something gentler. Understanding, maybe. Two men finally realizing they'd both been shaped by the same broken mold, and that healing didn't mean forgetting. It meant rebuilding with open hands instead of closed fists. After he left, I looked at that old photo again. Two boys grinning, mud on their faces, the world still simple. It hit me then. We'd both been chasing that simplicity ever since, trying to prove who mattered more when all we ever wanted was to matter together. Maybe that's what growing up really is. Learning that love isn't a scoreboard, it's a mirror. Later that night, Claire found me on the balcony, staring at the stars. She asked if I missed my brother. I told her, no, not the version I knew, but I think I'm starting to meet the man he's becoming. She smiled, kissed my cheek, and said, "Then maybe you both finally grew up." For the first time, I believed her. If you asked me now what I learned from all of it, the heartbreak, the revenge, the silence, I'd say this: sometimes, life gives you pain not to punish you, but to teach you how to love differently. My brother stole my girlfriend, but he also gave me a story I'll never forget. One about losing everything and finding grace in what was left. Maybe family isn't about who hurt you. Maybe it's about who you choose to keep, even after the hurt is gone.